How's it going, guys? It's Najam. Welcome back to another video. In this video I'm going to review the Panasonic GM5. The GM5 is the smallest micro four thirds camera with an EVF. It's so small that most micro four thirds lenses are designed for camera bodies bigger than it. With most lenses it looks a little ridiculous, but there are great micro four thirds lenses that work well with this camera. The GM5 has a hot shoe mount, flash sync options, image bracketing, long 60-second exposures, burst mode, custom modes, full manual video and image exposure controls, and so much more that you can find in micro four thirds cameras. Going over the specifications, the GM5 has a 16 megapixel micro four thirds sensor, a live viewfinder with a resolution of 1,166,000 dots. On the back it has a 3-inch display with a resolution of 1280 by 720. The mechanical shutter goes from 60 seconds to 1/500th of a second maximum. The electronic shutter goes from 1 second to 1/16,000. Looking around the camera, all the controls on the camera are small. The buttons are flat and it can be hard to use with gloves on, but being a small camera, that's expected. The red leather texture on the body gives it a beautiful look, and the GM5 has a stylish design which appeals to many, including me. It's a well-built camera. It's small and light. Some parts may seem flimsy, that's because of its slim design, but the camera itself is well built. The 3-inch display on the back is nice, with an aspect ratio of 16:9, a resolution of 1280 by 720 and wide viewing angles. Not only does it look good, but it goes well with the design of the camera. It's a touchscreen and the GM5 has digital function buttons on the display. To keep the size down, there is only one dial on the GM5 and that does most of the operation. You can press it to switch options. Despite being a small camera, it packs quite a lot of features. It has Wi-Fi that allows you to transfer files from the camera to a smartphone. The Wi-Fi also allows you to remotely control the camera with the Panasonic app. Unfortunately, neither have worked for me. I wanted to use the app to use my phone as a monitor so I could record videos with me, since the GM5 doesn't have a tilting screen, but I couldn't get it to work. On the other hand, the GM5 does have good 1080p video, and with micro four thirds lenses you can get great quality shots. The batteries for the GM5 are small. I can get about 70 shots with one battery, so you will want to carry around more. They are small, so they shouldn't take up much space in the pocket. Let's talk about the price of the GM5. The GM5 has become so rare I can't find it on the used market. Not only that, it's also an expensive micro four thirds camera. You'll find other micro four thirds cameras for half the price and some with even better specs than the GM5. Before we go on to the image quality, I want to mention what I like about the camera. Number 1, EVF. Although the EVF is very small and it doesn't have a good resolution, I do find it useful for composing images even in low light. The EVF is why I picked the GM5 over the GM1. Number 2, the design. The design of this camera is sexy and I love it, especially this red one. It's an absolute gem. Number 3, I love the small size of the GM5. This is what a micro four thirds camera is supposed to be. Okay, now let's talk image. The micro four thirds sensor in the GM5 gives great looking images with lots of detail. 16 megapixels is plenty for sharing images on social media, and for taking family photos is also more than enough. For professional work, 16 megapixels is plenty of resolution and you can get big prints from this camera. If you're into landscape photography, you may want more resolution, and I recommend a 20 megapixel micro four thirds camera to keep the weight and the size down. If you want more than that, you're gonna have to go bigger. I find the dynamic range to be sufficient for most use cases, and I love the colors I get from the GM5. The Panasonic GM5 has an organic look to the images, very reminiscent of film. The noise is an issue on all micro four thirds cameras. You'll get clean images up to ISO 800. ISO 1600 could use a little noise reduction, but not always. Personally, I do like a little grain in my images, and the noise from the GM5 is part of its look. ISO 3200 is recoverable, but I would avoid ISO 6400 and higher. If you're worried about noise in your images, check out my free noise reduction tutorial on my YouTube channel. The GM5 doesn't have IBIS, and I will speak more on this later. With the huge Micro Four Thirds lens selection, you can find a lens for almost anything. I've used the Olympus 60mm f2.8 macro to get detailed shots. The Panasonic 12-32mm pancake zoom lens is perfect for this camera. And the Panasonic 14-140mm f3.5 to f5.6 turns this camera into an all-in-one travel camera. With Micro Four Thirds image quality and the 14-140, this may be the best travel companion, not sacrificing on image quality, yet being easy to carry around in a jacket pocket. Let's go over some of the things I don't like about the GM5. The GM5 does have drawbacks, but not many. Number 1, the grip. The GM5 can be a bit hard to hold with big lenses, and it could use a better grip. Although, to be fair, because of its small size, I do hold the camera differently. You're better off holding the lens rather than the camera. Number 2, no IBIS. The GM5 does not have IBIS. I would love a GM6 with a 20 megapixel sensor and IBIS. The optical image stabilization in Panasonic lenses makes up for most of what is lost, but if you're going to use manual lenses, the lack of IBIS makes a big difference in the usability of lenses on this camera, especially in low light. And number 3, this is a major drawback in my opinion, you get bad RAW files when using the electronic shutter. The RAW files from the GM5 are great. If you're using the mechanical shutter, you might not notice it, but since I've been using the GM5 for years, I've noticed that when using the electronic shutter, the raw images have missing shadows, like literally. And the camera does not allow you to use mechanical shutter when using manual lenses like the Laowa 7.5mm f2 or the Metacon 25mm f0.95. And this becomes a problem. For me personally, I like to shoot everything ISO 100 regardless of the lighting conditions, and then I like to boost the image in post, but I can't recommend this camera for such users because the RAW files have cut information. Other than this, the ISO invariance is okay. Using manual lenses on this camera is not advised in my opinion, as you're going to be limited to using the electronic shutter. I guess this isn't a big problem for most people, but it is for me. And to conclude, I will make a recommendation. The GM5 is an amazing camera. The image quality is superb and the experience of using the GM5 is more like that of using a pocket camera if you have a small lens on it. After all, it is a really small camera. I would love to see an update to the GM lineup of cameras, as these small Micro Four Thirds cameras is what Micro Four Thirds is all about. That being said, I recommend the GM5 to anybody who is looking for a small camera with really good image quality. If you guys have any questions, ask me in the comment section below. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in another video.